Welcome, everyone. Welcome to ThursdAI. This is Alex Volkov with Weights and Biases. Welcome to ThursdAI, April 24th. Today, we have quite a lot of guests on the show. We also finally got that chill week we've been waiting for since maybe 2 years ago. It seems like after the big releases week of O3 and GPT 4.5, major labs are a little bit taking a little bit of a break to probably release bigger things next week, including potentially some open source stuff. But we still, there's a bunch of news. There's a bunch of news in open source. There's quite a lot of stuff. So I want to welcome a few folks here to help me talk through them as well. I want to add Quinn and LDJ. Hey, Quinla. I want to introduce Quinla Kramer to the stage. Quinla, welcome. Not your first time here. You've been here for a minute, so folks know who you are. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And we have LDJ as well. LDJ, how are you, man?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. We will have a few guests, like I said, including some friends of ours who did their own thing. I'm very interested in hearing about and to have a discussion about this as well. And I think that after the explosive week last week, it does seem a little bit like it's a chiller week this week. Instead of covering all the news in depth like we do, and we barely have time, hopefully today in a very chill way, we'll cover everything without rushing. So I think that this is what we'll now do. We'll jump into the TLDR. TLDR, as I said before, for new listeners of the show, covers everything that we are having on our docket this show. A lot of the times we have breaking news. Hopefully today we'll also have a little bit of breaking news. And so the show changes, but basically this is what we are here to talk about. Besides maybe one other thing that I want to add at the end of the show if we'll have time. So with that, let me go to TLDR. Alrighty, this is everything that we have to talk about on ThursdAI for April 24th. And we'll start with hosting guests. Obviously, me, Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. We also have Wolfram's going to join us soon. Yama's here, LDJ. And then we have two guests joining us. Quinla Kramer, the co-founder of Daily and maintainer of PipeCat, the open source, and our resident voice expert, everything voice AI. And we'll also have Dex Horthy. Dex has been on the show before as well. And Dex is, we'll call him our resident agent expert. And Dex is the founder of Human Layer. And he will join us to talk about how to build 12-factor agents, something that he wrote and authored and would love to hear, just about also the update in the agent world. In the open source, we had a few things this week, nothing super crazy. I think the highlight of the week for many of the ThursdAI listeners was OpenAI is closer and closer inching to their open source release, and they've met with the open source community. Ziar, a friend of the show, has also been there, and they will hopefully let us know. I don't think that OpenAI limited the conversation, so they can share what the conversation was about. Also in open source, NVIDIA released Describe Anything, 3 billion parameters. They call it DAM. If you guys remember SAM, segment anything, it's like that, but also describes. It's pretty cool. We're going to show an example of this and going to play around with this. It's a LLM, multimodal LLM for region-based image and video captioning. I haven't seen the video part. I've seen the region, like the image part, but that's absolutely super cool. I want to dive in this QAT thing from Gemma. Google released a quantization aware training QAT Gemma 3 models, and they're like significantly smaller. Finally, we got a little bit of a break. We can breathe. We can try out all the new things. And then I think the highlight of this week, for me at least, was OpenAI finally releases their image gen, which they call GPT Image 1 in API. So the developers can use this in API. There's a few things you can do. You can edit an image, you can generate an image. It's pretty cool. The fact that it's now integrated into multiple products as well. They launched together with, I think, 5 or 6 products. Very cool. So we're going to chat about this, see the limitations there, and play around with this. Grok, we haven't talked about Grok in a while, but there's like a few things about Grok. First of all, while we're still waiting for Grok 2, Uncle Elon, to get released in open source, we are still waiting on that. Grok 3 and Grok 3 Mini are finally available via API, and this means that folks can do evaluations of them, and we can build with them, and they're integrated in multiple other products as well. So we'll chat about this. Grok also launched a video mode in its iOS app where you can talk to it and it can see you. And yeah, we should definitely chat about this because we remember how long it took for OpenAI to announce this and then release, and then in the middle, Google released this, and now it's pretty much everywhere. So definitely worth chatting about and maybe even trying on stage. We'll see if we can make this work technically. In this week's bug about ways and businesses and MCP and A2A. First of all, we have a hackathon coming up in San Francisco. This is the first you'll hear about this. It's coming up very soon, May 17th, 18th in San Francisco in the Weights and Biases office. I'll be there. Sam will be there. Most of the Weave team will be there as well. You are more than welcome to join. If you are looking for a reason to go to San Francisco, that could be it for you. I don't know. Maybe go see the Golden Gate Bridge and then come to our hackathon. If you are already in San Francisco, there's nowhere better to be. We're planning to go all out and we're going to announce sponsors very soon. The second announcement for Weights and Biases is Fully Connected, our flagship conference, our 2-day conference where we bring a bunch of Weights and Biases customers together and have a bunch of speakers. That's happening in June, and that's coming up very soon as well. It was announced, and it's incredible. Moving forward in vision and video, there's a very interesting 24 billion parameter model called Magi-1 from ThursdAI that came out of nowhere seemingly. It's a Chinese company, and it generates long videos that are character consistent, which is crazy. And we definitely should take a look at some of these and hopefully maybe even talk about architecture, because architecture is also crazy. Also, another company goes into avatars fully. Character AI announced Avatar FX, and it's in early access. And we should talk about Character AI. I don't use this, but I know a million people use it. It's really interesting that they're doing this pivot into physical, visual avatars that you can chat with. Going forward in voice and audio, at least as far as my Twitter account is concerned, this was the highlight of the releases of this week. Nari Labs, which is essentially a person in the half in Korea, like it's one dude and his friend half-time in Korea, have trained Dia, a 1.6 billion parameter voice gen models with emotional tones and multiple speakers and podcast generation. You could see the similarity to Notebook LM from Google because the voice talk over each other. This blew up. I think people love this. People eat this up. This is an MIT license as well. A very tiny, very well-performant voice model. When you had the chance to check this out, but definitely we should play some examples for you because some of them are crazy. Also, in voice and audio, our own Quinn here, you guys have your own release. Pipecat Smart Turn, daily Smart Turn, I don't know how we want to call this, Smart Turn model, which is a semantic VAD, and we're going to chat about, if that didn't tell you anything, we're going to chat about what this means. We did touch on this a little bit before, but that wasn't open source, and now we have an open source. We have the author of this also here with us. Will tell us why he spent his holidays working on this. And this is voice and audio. I believe that this is it, but we'll see. We, in AI art and diffusion, obviously image one kind of AI art, but that's in big companies. Hunyuan released 3D, Hunyuan 3D 2.5. It's a 10 billion parameter 3D model, and the results seemingly are crazy. Those 3D models are getting better and better. We should definitely take a look and definitely check it out. And I think the last thing on my agenda, at least until folks come in and correct me and see what else is there, we have Dexter Horthy, the founder of Human Layer, to talk to us about his. So if you are building agents or interested in agents for AI, Dexter will be a resident agent expert for this week. He'll join us very soon to talk about 12-factor agents and SEO fears that blew up on Hacker News. We'll chat with Dexter as well. I think that this is it for us for this week. This is the TLDR. And this has been Thursday. Now we actually need to talk about all of this. But as you guys see, it's been a relatively quiet week. And we've been asking for a quiet week. So I think it's a great opportunity to take a pause for a second and then actually dive deeper, maybe learn a few more things, maybe tell the audience. With that said, folks who are listening live on the stream, on X Spaces, and on streams on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on X, everywhere, if you're listening as well, please let us know what you guys think. Let us know what news we may have missed. Let us know what was interesting to you. We'll definitely also want to chat about the actual models themselves. So please, if you have any comments, let us know. With that said, this was the TLDR. We're going to start with open source. But before this, we now have the almost full quorum. We're missing Wolfram. Welcome, Jan Peleg. Welcome, Nistan. How are you guys? What is the most important thing in AI as far as you're concerned? Let's start with Jan.
OpenAI. Yeah. OpenAI going open source, like absolutely going open source. Then it was known before. Like we all know that they're going to release a model, but all of a sudden they approved their agent from last week.
Code
Correct. Apparently there was a pull request to extend it to providers that are not OpenAI. So it'll be able to integrate the agent with the Anthropic or whatever. And even if it's open source, you don't really expect OpenAI to all of a sudden approve this, that you can use whatever model that you want. And out of nowhere, they just approve it. It's fully unlocked. You can use it with whatever model and engine that you want. That's impressive. That's really going open source. Look at the amount of pull requests over the week. It's impressive. They're really working on this full time. There are people really maintaining it. These tools are extremely powerful. Codex and Claude Code are extremely powerful tools, and it's absolutely amazing to see this.
Nistan, what about you? What's your highlight of AI this week? What stood out for you?
I think I'm just happy they unnerfed Sonnet. It seems good now again.
Wait, really? Sonnet is unnerfed?
Yeah. Sorry, 3.7 thinking. I don't know. It's not being done anymore. So I like this competition. I am still a Sonnet 3.7 fanboy. I don't think anything replaces it.
What?
Well, it was. I was testing it before, and for a while, it just started getting even basic questions or like basic hard questions wrong. It felt like the inference had changed or the quantization or whatever. It was just dumb. And this was a lot of people reported all at once. And I was actually able to compare past tests and current ones, and Sonnet 3.7 thinking was actually failing them. And the one on Ella Marina was passing them. But now it seems okay. Now it's getting everything correct. So I'm happy about that on that side. I still feel like all hands and open hands is just flying under the radar for most people as to how good that thing actually is. They still have $50 on their end. You can just run it on your own too. And that thing is crazy. Yeah, I actually prefer the way that they build the app as a single pager too, that they don't just go nuts with Next.js and everything, because that becomes quickly a convoluted mess. Whereas this way, it just keeps it all in context. And you can actually use other models too with that. So I think those are the two things I want to highlight besides outside of the voice stuff.
Alrighty. And speaking of voice stuff, Quinn, what was the highlight for you before we actually get to those parts of the show?
For me, the Dia model, like I think the OpenAI guys in that training 4.5 video a couple weeks ago were saying that half the battle is knowing you can do something. And to have like 2 students in Korea release a great model, it's possible. We should all be working on this stuff. It's super exciting. I also think we should shout out the Gemini team, which released, spread out over last week and this week, more stuff in their multimodal live API. So the big labs are also like continuing to push forward on speech to speech and the APIs for all that. And that's flying under the radar a little bit. I think the interest goes in waves with the real-time API and the multimodal live API, but the teams at both OpenAI and Gemini keep like pushing it forward, which is cool.
No. And lastly, LJ, before we go to open source, highlight of the week. And then folks in comments, feel free to leave us highlights of the week as well. We'd love to see and highlight them on the show. LDJ, what was your main thing, main takeaway, main interesting thing from this week?
The main thing coming to mind right now is probably O4 Mini. I think it has its downsides, but overall, its ability, especially if you look at things like Arc AGI, or if you don't really like that benchmark, just its ability to do various things, where it seems like in some cases it could be even cheaper than O3 Mini because it's even smarter sometimes at being able to know when it should use less tokens. And just the abilities and the cost effectiveness of it, it seems like we're just continuing on this path of cost efficiency. Yeah.
We definitely should highlight the Arc AGI kind of results for O4 Mini. Definitely for folks who are concerned about very hard improvement and hard takeoffs, seeing how these models improve on various benchmarks is very interesting. LJ, if you have that link, if you drop this, I'll definitely open this up. Folks, I think it's time for us to actually start the show and talk about open source, our favorite subject here at ThursdAI. Open source AI, let's get it started. Let's get it started, folks. For open source for this week, we have the score is open source AI in general, but we're gonna like mention voice and stuff as well here. We obviously need to start with not only the fact that OpenAI is like committing to open source in Codex, but also with the fact that this week OpenAI have welcomed on the Zoom meeting multiple folks who are involved in the open source arena. How about we tune in and listen from the man himself? Let's add Maziar here.
I guess while we're waiting for him to pop in, something else that was confirmed prior, I think maybe a week or two ago, Sam said at an event that they plan to have it be competitive with any existing open source model of today, which seems like it would be like at least on the level of R1, Llama 4, Maverick, models like that.
All right, let's
Hi,
go.
guys. Thanks for
So
having
let me just introduce Maziar Panahi for a second, because you've been on the Twitter Spaces multiple times, and we obviously celebrated your work for a very consistent time. You've been one of the more prominent fine-tuners in the fine-tuning community for open source and a friend of the pod, but I think this is the first time, definitely on video. Feel free to, so first of all, welcome, great to see you. And feel free to maybe quickly introduce yourself so folks who know who you are, and then we'll talk about...
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. It's the first time being here like this. Yeah, my name is Maziar. I work at the CNRS. It's a national research for French government. It's public research. I do create AI models from the very small ones all the way to the very big ones. And I just want to tell you a little bit about yesterday, if you have some time.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't expect to see some of the people there. I didn't expect to see Sam there at all. I knew that people were going to be from the training team, obviously, but there were already some big names. Sam was there. He spent the first half of the conversation answering all the questions. So that was very nice of him. People had a lot of questions regarding the size, regarding how often you want to do it. Will this happen regularly? So he was answering all the questions. And basically what he wanted to do was that their GPUs are on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to release open models so some of these loads would be handled locally. That is his philosophy of how do we make sure we can help the community, but at the same time, the community help them take some of the pressure on the GPUs. And then we were divided into different rooms, and I was ready to fight with all the people, the size and whether or not we want the reasoning or not. But it was really great to see all the people with the same experience, because for the last 2 years, people were really fine-tuning and training all these models and putting them in production. So they've been all battling the same issues and having the same experiences. So of all the rooms being compiled, everybody was literally asking the same thing. They didn't want a small model, because to be honest, you could get small models from different labs and different institutes, right? So you want a big model, but not too big, not something like a 600 plus billion parameters that takes the whole node and the whole server has to be just for one model. Something around maybe 70 to 200. So you could spend 4 GPUs on this model, and then the other 4 GPUs would be for other models like your audio, your video. Maybe you want something smaller to deal with the intermediate steps. You don't want to bother the big models. So everybody agreed on that. Everybody really wanted the structure output. Weirdly, nobody wanted the reasoning at all.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, we don't need the reasoning, because I guess people in production, the tokens are expensive. So
Yeah.
they were explicitly asking, please do not spend so much time doing fancy RL on this model, because it's just going to be for math and coding and some really very specific tasks. So it was really, they were also surprised to see some of these comments coming from like a large amount of people.
I think that is, I'm really interested. As far as I understood, maybe from comments, that first of all, OpenAI told us explicitly they're moving towards a hybrid model.
Yeah.
We saw it in Gemini 2.5 Flash. We saw it in NVIDIA released something that's also Nemotron is also like a hybrid thing. OpenAI announced they will move towards like hybrid things. Claude 3.5 Sonnet as well. And as far as I understood, that's what their plan was. Why do you think people do not want reasoning?
People just realized from the open models that they do reasoning, you are stuck in the reasoning, so you can't really turn it off. So they ask, if you are going to do reasoning, please allow us to turn it off so we can decide when we need it and when we don't, so we don't have to wait so much, because we ask for a large model, right? So you have to spend a lot of compute on those tokens. So that was one very surprising thing came out. The other one was really multilinguality, because there were a large majority of the people were coming from EU. So they were asking to have a good representation of the EU languages, at least 20 of them, as good as English. That it's not that hard, right? And a lot of people asked for the base model. They were saying, if you give us the base model, there would be loads off your shoulders, because the community is going to come and fine tune a lot of stuff that you don't have to anymore, right? Just give us a good base. And then the people are going to come out for the languages that they're underrepresented, for tasks that you probably didn't want to do, coding, role play, or other stuff. We will do it for you. Just please to give us the base. And one thing people really also focused on, which was really, I thought I'm going to fight with them, but they were all on the same page, that please do not try to be top one or top at all. Like, just give us a very useful model. Doesn't really matter where you are in the leaderboard. Because then if you go to that site, it's never going to be good. You're going to be thrown in 2 days or even in 1 day, and you're going to be discouraged. Just give us something that is very useful, and the community would appreciate it. The community would use it. They will prune it. They will distill it. They will do a lot of things with that model. But if you just try to game the system and to be number one and think that this thing is going to be just in the headlines for a whole week, then we will never get that model, because it's just not possible. With the speed that we are going forward, whatever you do today, tomorrow is just going to be a better model coming out from other labs, right? So that was things that they agreed on a lot of it. They came out with a lot of questions that was like, they showed they came prepared, which was very nice, that they took the time, they prepared questionnaires, they were moderating the conversations. The groups were there very diverse, from people working in UK government or French government and having startups. That was very nice also. So they said soon. And OpenAI, when they say earlier stage, it could be in 2 weeks. You never know with OpenAI. Usually soon means like 10 minutes. I don't know how soon. But the fact they said they would like to be committed to a regular release of open model.
Oh, really?
That was something very nice. I like that. It's not like a one-time thing that here is the model, goodbye. I think it's like, here is the model that we're going to keep on releasing and making sure it's useful all the time. Something we always ask, right? Please don't release model once a year, because after 6 months, it's very outdated. Just do it like every 3 months. You don't have to be number one again. Just be useful all the time.
Thank you so much for this great recap. I'm very happy that they invited Prince, invited like a bunch of other folks. I think it just shows that OpenAI is like really planning to listen to the community. This is great, folks. This is like absolutely incredible. So shout out to OpenAI for this, coming prepared, having Sam there. Sam and I think a few folks already collaborating with Hugging Face. OpenAI is doing it right, and hopefully we'll see a great model coming out from them, maybe a hybrid one, reasoning, etc. Folks, anything else? Any of you want to ask a specific question to Mazi before we move on here?
You mentioned the guard rates.
Yeah, Wolfram, go ahead.
Yeah, I had my sources as well. So they talked about the
We're
guard
everywhere,
rates.
but-
Yeah, so about the guard rates, did you mention that just now?
Yeah, there are some people who were asking for it. The safety was big in one of the rooms. And I guess the projects they have in the government, like one person was like, we want to put the entire UK government in AI. So I think safety for them is very important. But at the same time, we were like, could you not like really do alignment on the model? Because then the quality would drop. You could just give us a very smaller classifier for red teaming, for toxicity, and for other stuff. Because you guys are very good in this kind of stuff, right? We don't also need to waste asking the bigger model, what do you think should be answered or not? So I guess what we see, the trend from Llama Guard, and then Gemma, not Gemma has Gemma Guard for visual even, it's better to separate them, not because the too much post-training and alignment is just really hurting their model. That's why every time someone comes and uncensors the model, you just get a better result because it's not really limited to what it could say. I think that was also things that they agreed on, having a separate model for safety. They will do their safety as much as they can, but not too much. Like some of the Gemma instruct, if you realize you have this prefix, answer, postfix, so the safety is embedded into the models so much, you have to have a system prompt to say it like, I get it. I'm already a doctor. Stop keep saying you have to check with the doctor. Stop being so concerned about that you're an AI. Like, we get it. We know we're talking to AI. It's 2025. You're not fooling anybody. We know you make mistakes. So I think that was the whole some of it, that guardrails would be nice to come with another model.
I gotta wonder how big this release will make waves in the community, because OpenAI actually being open for models, it's been a long time since that was the case, since GPT-2, I believe, is the last model that they released waves for, and then Whisper, which is not an LLM, and then the new transcription stuff they didn't release in open source, so Whisper is like still the biggest interesting one. That's very interesting. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, folks from OpenAI who are listening, we are going to cover this. If you want to send folks from the open source team in OpenAI to chat with the open source, with the best show that covers open source AI in the world, which I think it's us, you are more than welcome to send it. And if not, we'll definitely cover this as well. Mazi, thank you so much for coming up.
Lovely being here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great having you here as well. Feel free to stick around with us. We have a big group here, and I love it, because the next thing we're going to talk about is, actually, let's talk about the quantization aware stuff. You've seen this as well. The folks from Gemma, shout out to our friend Omar San Sivero, who's now doing God's work in open source in Google. They announced releasing Gemma QAT. QAT stands for Quantization Aware Training, and they reduced the VRAM requirements from 54 gigabytes for this model. Gemma 3 weights 27 billion parameter, from 54 gigabytes VRAM to 14. This is a significant reduction. Let me actually show this on screen here, because you need to appreciate the graph to see what this does. And Quantization Aware Training, who can tell us what that actually means? Because it's not quantization post-training, right? It's happening while they make the model.
A brief rundown. Yeah, there's different forms and types of this in research over the years, but I think the main thing that they're probably doing here is something along the lines of, as you're training, you're actually at times doing selective quantization of which parts of the model are optimal to quantize at certain points in time, and doing that progressively as you train the model more and more. And so that allows the model to typically end up in a quantized state that's much higher quality than if you were to just apply some general quantization after the model was trained that's not specific to that particular model.
I see. And so we see thank you, LJ. We see this kind of improvement in requirements all across the models. Even the 1 billion parameter model goes from 2 gigabytes VRAM to half a gig VRAM, the 4.B. Wolfram, you had the chance to test this. I saw a quick comment from you that's very interesting. What happened over there with this great?
I'm running it in LM Studio, and the good news is it only takes about 5 to 6 gigabyte of RAM for just loading the model and using it. So you can run it on your at-home computers easily. That's the great thing about it. And the quality is very high. But what I was doing, I have a pretty complex system prompt, especially about language, because I talked to the model in German and English. The prompt is completely in English. And so I was saying hello in German, and the model started talking in English. So I said, okay, there's a rule in the prompt. That's how you have to respond. And if I start in German, you have to speak German as well. And so I always do that. I did it with Claude. If something is not right, I say, okay, there's a bug in your programming. You have to fix it. We have to look at your prompt and fix it. And when I did that with Gemma, it gave me that response. Oh, you really are attentive? I must say I'm impressed. Yes, the prompt. You're right. It does say something else, but let's be honest. Who reads the fine print?
With a wink emoji. With a winking emoji. This quantized Gemma just full of sass for you.
Yeah, of course, that is with my aiming prompt as always. So that is a system prompt that is there, but there's a complex rule about language. So we are taking turns, and because I often use it for translation, so it should translate but still speak my language. Yeah. So that is partly Amy, but it has to follow the prompt. That is the whole thing. Yeah. And Gemma 2 did not have system prompt support. They didn't support it. If you tried to send one, you got an error message that it is not supported, which I criticized. And I'm really happy that they did it with Gemma 3. There is system prompt support, otherwise that wouldn't work as well. But something is not as good as other models regarding prompt adherence, apparently. And the model even acknowledges it in a sassy way.
Yeah, I am. I am annoyed. I am so annoyed by this blog post because they could have posted exactly what the benchmarks were in quantized versus regular quants and just shown an improvement. They don't show any of that. It looks like the method that they use, they have the language here is very ChatGPT, but I think they just kept the last layer, just kept the output at float 16 so that they could get, quote unquote, say that they could get the log props from the non-quantized checkpoint. So it looks like they just continue the training for 5,000 steps. I'm wondering if that quantization aware training was mostly in English, that's why it performed that way. But yeah, overall, I am both excited and annoyed by this.
Did you test function calling? Because one of the things that I feel like Gemma lags behind a little bit in what they focused on in the training is function calling. And I'm curious about the QAT function calling.
I didn't get to that yet, so it has been just testing a bit of the chatting. And there's also the thing you have to use a proper temperature and other values. There's on Unslot, there's a nice tutorial on how to use it, which I'm sad to say that should be in the model card, not on some other resources where you have to look for it. And of course, it's quantized and it's running in LM Studio. So I don't know yet where the problem is. Is it the model? Is it the quantization level? Is it the settings? Is it the inference engine that has some bugs? We have seen that with newer models in other, like Llama and other setups. So I don't know why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And I'm maybe too used to the big online models like GPT 3, 03, 4.0 and 03 and so on. So maybe I'm expecting too much at the moment, but I definitely have to look into this. It's not doing as well as I had hoped.
I had problems with it, but I was using the MLX version, and I'm going to try again this weekend because I'd really like to get function calling working because it's a good model.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I recommend MLX started adding 4-bit AWQ quant support, and by default, AWQ was only 3 bits. So that was the issue that they hadn't shown before, but now they show with AWQ, it keeps perplexity at 99%, which might even be better than doing it through quantization aware training. I'm not sure. I would probably use that quant. That might just be the best performance to capability ratio quant right now for running the models locally.
Moving on to NVIDIA releasing Describe Anything. It's a 3 billion parameter model. They call it DAM3B, a multimodal LLM for region-based image and video captioning. I haven't seen the video captioning here, but I've seen the demo for the image captioning. It is pretty cool. So reminder, I released like a long time ago, Segment Anything. It was a very tiny model. It allows you to select something and it will segment completely. This model kind of does this, but also describes what's happening here. You can see that for folks who are watching, for those who are listening, I'm on Describe Anything model demo, and I just preloaded one of the images there. And as I move my cursor, the segments underneath are highlighted, but when I click on one, we can see a description getting generated in a second. It usually takes a little bit faster than this. And so I clicked on this bear and it says a brown bear with a thick, dense coat of fur, featuring shades of gray, brown, and lighter brown. The bear has prominent snout. Blah, blah. So basically, and you can then describe a new region and then describe everything. It is literally describe everything, but I think the interesting part about this is that for folks who are watching saying, our vision models can do this. Any model right now is a vision model, like we can describe it. I think that the point here that you can like specifically choose one region and then have a description of that. I think that's a cool point here as well. Let's see.
How do you train this? Like, where do you get data for something like this?
That's a very good question. I don't believe that NVIDIA...
Meta. I think that's all of Meta's past work.
But
They're
it's not Meta, NVIDIA, listen.
But they were the ones pushing this for a while. There was Efficient SAM too. They've pushed a lot of data sets. It's 35 terabytes or something from Meta for this type of data. That's fully out. There's a lot of data on this.
It looks like the data set is also released. Describe Anything data set.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we have
there we go.
subsets here, Coco and Paco and Sam.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and let's Data Studio to take a look. So first of all, shout out to NVIDIA for releasing something like cool like this, but also with data. The project page is full of NVIDIA and UC Berkeley as well. So shout out, and UCSF. So shout out to all these folks for training this thing. I think the coolest thing about this is that it's video as well. The demo doesn't work on video, but as we can see, this kind of the segmentation kind of keeps happening over video as well. And for folks who are just listening, we're now watching a GIF of a fish in tank. All these fishes look the same. And the caption when one fish is selected is a vibrant goldfish with striking pattern of orange and black spots. The tail, fins out, blah, blah, blah. I think this is pretty cool. Like we don't have our friends from Vision Department from RoboFlow, but I'm pretty sure that they're cooking like a tutorial for this in like supervision. This is dope. Do you guys remember when we had Piotr Skalski here from RoboFlow to talk to us about Sam? And then there was another model that did just the description. He literally built kind of the combination of them to get to this model. He built Sam plus, I don't remember what it was, but it was a model something from Microsoft. Come on, Florence, maybe? Yeah, I think
Florence was it.
I think it was Florence. And then Florence does the description, the captioning, etc. So he combined this to segment anything you click, and then you get the caption from Florence. So this is like one unified model in 3 billion parameters that does both. It's super cool from NVIDIA. Detailed localized description is what they call this, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's like very useful for multiple applications. Specifically, imagine honestly now with the GPT image that we're going to talk about, you can imagine all kinds of interfaces where you want to remove some part. The GPT image 1 allows for masking, for example. You can super quickly build with this model the segmentation part, mask out the person that you want to replace it with a dog. So even for that, it's like super useful. 3 billion parameters probably will run almost real time on any like production GPU. Comments about this one, folks? What do you guys think? Is there anything else we should mention about this model? Anything interesting that we want to know?
Tracking objects over video is a hard problem. It's like sideline. Yeah, we do that as well, but we also describe. This is crazy, seriously. Like, I haven't looked into the architecture, but just by looking at this, the level of understanding, it's probably a really good base for tons of use cases you can further train this on. Like just the level of understanding throughout video and embedding it in language is probably a really good model. It makes sense. Everything NVIDIA produces is really good. But yeah, that's impressive, seriously.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. This is like super cool. And I can see a lot of useful things that are coming from this model. They also compare this to other DLCs, detailed localized captioning. So basically this task, they also compare it to other pipelines as well. Just the fact that this is one model and not split into segment anything else is pretty cool. Yeah, we also have another model. You're right, Wolfram. Let's cover this like super quick as well. NVIDIA is on a tear.
I think people are starting to realize just how far ahead Piotr at the RoboFlow is and has been the entire time.
Yep.
He's literally a year ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, he built this, but not in one model. They haven't trained the model for this. They like pipeline. Let's talk about the other NVIDIA release super quick while we're in the open source. NVIDIA quietly also dropped OpenMath Nematron. OpenMath Nematron, 32 billion parameters, N14. They won the first prize in AI Math Olympiad 2. You guys know the Math Olympiad for people. There's one for AIs as well. It's called AI MO. And Nemotron that was trained on OpenMath was basically winning the first prize. And they just released the dataset for this and the model. And we can take a look at the kind of the results here compared to, is that?
Let's see.
What did you ask?
Yeah, where are the big guns?
Oh yeah, DeepSeek 64. It's on the left.
So for folks who are listening, we're seeing a bunch of comparisons between a few models, and then these, I think they're comparing only to open source models because we only have QWQ here, and the DeepSeek is still 32B.
Wait, 1.5B. Look how much that got. Okay, that gets impressive.
Yeah. So OpenMath Nematron 1.5B gets 65.6% accuracy on this AIMO, or I guess this is AIME. So this is like math, like the human math Olympiad. That's pretty cool. The coolest thing about this is
horizontal.
It's really close to the 14. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's the 1.5B being higher than DeepSeek R1. That needs to be double checked. Because that is completely insane. That is completely just groundbreaking and stuff.
I think the thing that you guys are referring to as looks too good is that the fact that OpenMath Nemotron 1.5 billion parameters gets 65%, and it beats both the distilled DeepSeek 32 billion parameters and QVQ at 32 billion parameters, right? The very surprising result here that like this 1.5B solves math at the level of a 32 billion parameter QVQ, which is a reasoning model. Nemotron is also a reasoning model, but I'm not sure if the small one is. The thing that to highlight here as well, that these folks released the Kaggle winning solution and also the dataset. It's a 5.5 million math reasoning dataset that they released. They call it Open Math Dataset. And shout out to NVIDIA for all, folks. How about that? Shout out to NVIDIA for all this open source work. What the heck? This is great. We have
each and every single time the data also.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So we'll definitely celebrate this. With our applause.
Because the models come and go, but the data that they stay and you can use them, reuse them.
Yeah, and they said the dataset was a foundation of our winning submission to the AI MO2 Kaggle competition. So if we go to Kaggle and we see the like AI Math Olympiad Progress Prize 2, I think it was like $50,000, and Nemotron was the winning one with the dataset release. Shout out to the folks. That's great. Moving on in open source, folks. We're moving on in open source because we need to also talk about audio stuff. And we have our audio expert here to cover the audio stuff as well. 2 releases a week in the audio area. Let's talk about Dia first, because I think it absolutely blew up. I think that it will help if we actually play an example of Dia while we pick it up. Quinn, if you would like to open up with Dia description, what it is, and then I'll try to pull up the actual audio as well.
It's an open weights model done by 2 students or maybe a student and a half, and it has like crazy dynamic range. It can just take a script and be super expressive. And I think that's why it blew up. That's my sense of what people really keyed in on. And we should play some examples, and then I definitely have some thoughts.
Yeah, these examples, I've played them okay. I think it's very important for a model like this to have a demo page. But basically, if you guys are watching, you can see there's like speaker 1 and speaker 2. And this is how you pass this to the model, like speaker 1, speaker 2.
Dia is an open weights text to dialogue model.
You get full control over scripts and voices.
Amazing.
Try it now on GitHub or Hugging Face.
This was Dia or Dia, I don't know. But the thing that I love the most about this is that you can add emotions in parentheses and laughs. Quinn, like you can hear the person starting to laugh in the previous word. So this model is like smart about the whole segment. Not just, it doesn't get to the left and starts laughing. If you play 11 Labs, let's play 11 Labs again.
Dia is an open weights text to dialogue model.
You get full control over scripts and voices.
Wow. Amazing.
Try it now on GitHub or Hugging Face.
So this was 11 Labs, and you can literally hear the thing that I said before. It gets to the laugh thing, and then it goes, haha. And it's not built in. For some reason, I think that this is what caught fire, Quinn, the most, is like, again, when you add these emotions, it really comes through. But you had some other experiences with this. Let's listen to another
one about the fire, where there's a fire going on and people
Yeah.
are yelling. Can we play that? That is insane.
Let's play. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, and hopefully I'm not mistaken, this is from The Office. This is that like famous scene when everybody's getting freaked out. And so here's 11 Labs reading out this fire, very emotional script.
Oh my goodness. What's the procedure? What do we do, people? The smoke could be coming through an air duct.
Oh my God. Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure?
Everybody stay fucking calm.
Okay, so it reads it as though
I really like that you hear that and you think this is good. And then you're going to play that.
And then you play the open source 1.6 billion parameter model the Korean and a half students trained in like a basement somewhere.
Oh, fire! Oh my goodness! What's the procedure? What do we do, people? The smoke could be coming through an air duct.
Oh my God. Okay. It's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure?
Everybody stay fucking calm. Everybody fucking calm down.
No! If you touch the handle, if it's hot, there might be a fire down the hallway.
Yeah, this is a scene
How did they do this? Like, this is incredible. Seriously. What's the data set? How much did you train this on? What? It's like unbelievable.
It's
Seriously.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable because we're here on the podcast and we talk over each other. We understand when Liam is about to finish the sentence, I come in, and then Quinn, we're going to talk about all of this in semantic fat as well. But we all have an understanding of what's going on. When you hear the 11 Labs voices sound incredible. They have been working on this for a while. 11 Lab voices are great. However, the thing that we loved, especially from Notebook LM, is that they like the two speakers have this interaction between them. This is, again, a 1.6 billion parameter model. No idea how it gets to this level of emotional and also like interaction, and the voices speak on top of each other. And like Sesame also is there. So here's a last maybe example of kind of the nonverbal stuff that it can do. So there's like coughs and sniffs here.
Hey there. Why did you just cough? Why did you just sniff?
Why did you just clear your throat?
Why did you just laugh?
Nicely done.
So
Hey there.
the last part is what threw me completely away. When it says, why did you clear throat? And then it says laughs in parentheses, it starts to laugh at the word throat. It's like, why did you clear your throat? Like this. Whereas 11 Labs got to the point and then started laughing. And then the other guy just interrupted him. Why did you just laugh? Just interrupted in the middle. Like the first sentence did not finish. It's like the model generated two voices. Quinn, what do we make of this?
Did they say anything? Didn't they really brag about what they did? Nothing.
The bragging that Toby did, Toby is one of the folks who trained this, or I think the main guy who trained this on Discord. The bragging was, we got to #1 Hugging Face, and we got to like so many stars on GitHub, and like it went super viral, not only for my account, like also on
for
a bunch
good
of other
reason. For good reason.
Quinn, what do we think about this?
So it's awesome. I love this work. It's great. But I'm going to throw a little cold water on it just for the sake of talking about where we are with speech. The 11 Labs folks could totally do this if this was the goal. It's partly about what you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to train a model that people are going to pay you money for, it needs to have some level of predictability. And the Dia model is unhinged. I am 100% sure they ran those examples 100 times to get the examples they put on the demo page, which is fine. Like, it's totally great if what you want is a model that shows what you can do. There's also, the longer you're a programmer, the more you realize that every single thing in the world is duct taped together.
Yep.
So there's like string replacement for the speaker and the special like non-speech things. It's a research model, which is, again, awesome, but it's just a totally different thing than what people who are putting out a model that they want people to pay for are going for. Like, I spent 20 minutes trying to do a dialogue with Dia and trying to do a dialogue with the GPT-4o mini TTS model. And I got much better results from GPT-4o mini TTS when I had something I was aiming for. Now, if you just throw some text at it and are like, oh, I want to see what it does, I haven't seen anything that's more fun than Dia, which is amazing. But like predictability, steerability, all these other things, they really do matter too. The data set's probably all YouTube. Everybody has just scraped a ton of YouTube for this stuff, which is why there aren't very many open data sets for these models. We're going to come back and talk about open data for audio in a minute. I also think that if you really focus on those non-speech things, you do get a huge amount of mileage. And maybe that's one of the things we should all take away from this is, if you're working on audio models, like, now we can set the bar at like speech isn't enough. I want to see sound effects. And some of the new OpenAI models have sound effect stuff, although I don't know how much they've nerfed that for the API because it makes it harder to use the model for speech. There's stuff coming out of Google that's going to be amazing. Notebook LM is obviously amazing. Like, 2025 is the year of audio in some ways.
Absolutely. I think that I completely agree with you. The one thing that we need to highlight, obviously, no matter how, like, a student and a half from Korea, no matter how correct they are, no matter which data set, they cannot compete with a company that this is what they do for productions and this is like the product they sell. What they can do, though, is get us all excited about the possibilities, something that you referred to in the beginning, right? Like getting to know to the level of this is possible on your phone in near real time is incredible. The fact that you can clone your voice here, which I've tried unsuccessfully, unfortunately, because some of the MPS stuff wasn't quite there, but the open source community definitely got up to speed. You can clone your voice and like our voices as well, and this will continue in that. So it's not even like one-shot cloning. It's like imitation in the inference, which is also super cool. That's something they've built in. It is hinged and unexpected for sure. And I gotta wonder like what this data set with a little bit of bigger model, a little bit stable could do. We don't know.
Like, audio models are small. And if you're a student or a hacker and you have a 4090, you can train audio models. That's one of the really cool things. So like Kokoro is 82 million parameters.
All right, yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah.
This is 1.6 billion, still very small relative to, you can train it on your own hardware, you can train it on modal, whatever. So yeah, everybody should be playing with these models if you're interested in deep learning.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to move on to the other open source. Quinn, I would love for you to tell us what you guys have released. And we've chatted about this, me and you at the engineer, obviously. And then we briefly touched on this when OpenAI released like semantic VAD in their advanced voice mode, which was great. And now I think they're also released in the API and in the app itself. Now the app is like significantly better for kids. Could you maybe start with what is the big news? And then we'll talk about like semantic VAD and some of the things in data.
Yeah, so the breaking news, I wish you'd play the breaking news.
I would.
I love breaking news.
Let's go. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI.
Thank you. That was awesome. So we released a checkpoint of this open source, open training code turn detection model we've been working on as a community. The goal is to have a state-of-the-art model that can tell you when a person is done talking and then LLM should start talking, because that's one of the kind of 2025 unsolved problems, broadly speaking, in building really good real-time voice agents. And it's surprisingly hard. We don't even always get it right as people. You're on a phone call, there's a little bit of latency in the phone call, you tend to interrupt each other. We've got transformers and audio conformer models. And so we've got really good tools for trying to figure out when people are done talking and when an AI should respond. And there's been very little open source work on this. So over Christmas, when I didn't have any meetings, I did a bunch of training runs and cleaned a bunch of data. And then it snowballed a little bit. And we're inviting everybody to come hang out and train small audio models with us. This one with audio on the input side and just a classifier percentage on the output side saying complete or incomplete phrase. And the breaking news is that this is now on FAL. Our friends at FAL.ai are hosting this model. So you can use it from any kind of voice agent or multimodal agent code base and just hit FAL, ask for complete or incomplete log probs and get those back and decide whether to trigger inference or not. OpenAI's semantic VAD, which is what they call this in their APIs, is in the real-time API now. I think it's really good.
How does it work, Quinn? I'd love to tell our listeners what semantic VAD is or what smart turn is as well. Basically, one of the reasons people don't like talking to AI is this specific thing. It interrupts and while you're thinking, especially for kids. We've talked about this with kids a lot as well. Kids tend to think maybe longer for the next word. Maybe they're trying to find multilingual folks such as myself. We also like struggle with this as well. Oftentimes the correct word in the wrong language comes up and you're like, no brain, I'm speaking English right now. I need a different word right now. And while this, like my mini conversation with Brain happens, ChatGPT used to just, Alex, here's an incomplete answer because you did an incomplete question. So previously, voice activity detection, you will correct me when I stop speaking, I'm sure, just did this based on sound levels, right? Based on just like quietness and some
better than sound levels. So traditionally you use a very small specialized ML model called a VAD model, voice activity detection model. And the only job is to take an audio frame and say, this is speech or this is not speech. And then for turn detection, what you've typically done is you've taken a certain number of frames of non-speech in a row and been like, okay, the person is done because they paused this long.
Yeah.
And the reason you use a VAD model instead of just audio level is because you want to filter out background noise. You want to be you want to work in a whole lot of different contexts. So you use this kind of special purpose classifier. The idea of semantic VAD or smart turn or whatever you want to call it is to go really significantly beyond that and try to incorporate the audio patterns in the speech and the linguistic data that you have access to. So I just said, and I drew out and then I paused. I probably wasn't done talking that, but both because you can hear what I'm doing tonally and because you understand the linguistic content. So what we're trying to do is train a model that can do that. Now, I love the question about how does it work, because I had a bunch of people at an event last night where I showed a demo be like, how does it work? And I was like, that's the wrong question. It's a deep learning model. We're not supposed to know how it works. All we can know is that we clean a bunch of data, we train the model, we look at where the model fails, we look at the data set, we iterate. It's an audio conformer model, so it's got like multi-headed attention block and a feed-forward network and a 1D convolutional network and a feed-forward network again, and then a bunch of those. And if we run enough data through it, it works.
That's how deep learning works. Where's the data from?
So this is really important to me. All the data is posted on Hugging Face. We have a bunch of recordings that we started doing ourselves who are working on this model. We are also trying to get to a synthetically generated data pipeline that works really well, because theory is if we scale up with synthetically generated data, that would be great. So we're going to try Daya as data generator for this.
Interesting.
At the moment, anyway, we really do need human data. So we put up a bunch of games at turntraining.pipecat.ai, I think. And you can go and you can play those games. And on the way in, you click, I'm cool with you guys recording my voice for open data sets. And then we'll keep the recordings, we'll clean them up, we'll post them to Hugging Face. And if your voice is in those data sets, every AI agent you talk to is going to work better for you than for your friends.
That's great.
Play the games.
That's a great incentive, folks. If you go play the daily games and train your voice, it will work better for you because you'll be represented well in the data set. That's actually pretty cool. Can we do a demo? Let's try to do a demo. I think there's a demo. You sent me a link, right?
Yeah, I sent you a link.
Yeah, let me go get the demo link super quick. I want to try this out. And specifically, you should tell me which type of stuff I should try. But like the so part, I think is very important.
Yeah, stuff like that. Stuff that feels like a natural pause.
It's pretty cool. Definitely 100%. When I give these models to my kids before Semantic VAD, they were absolutely not able to interact with these. And this really helps. So I think this is like a very important effort on the open source. I wanted to highlight this and let you talk about this on stage here. Anything else that I missed that you want to shout? Oh yeah, of course. There's also a course coming up that I want you to tell about, folks, because we're also involved. But anything else on the Smart Turn part that you want to tell folks?
No, just coming out with us, work on small audio models, add data sets for other languages. Like, I think it's a really fun project.
Yeah. And obviously for folks who come out and contribute voice to your datasets, other languages should be represented as well. So we call on the community to go and play with them. We'll add all those links in the show notes for folks who are listening. I think that this is it. Quinn, I wanted to give you the stage to talk about the great work you're doing in the community about educating as well. You gave me a book that I still have, but also there's now a course that you and our friend of the pod, patron of the pod, if you will, Swix, run together. Would you tell us about the course super quick?
Yeah, we wrote a really long guide to voice AI, kind of a fundamentals with a bunch of open source code samples. And that got a lot of really positive feedback. So we thought we'd basically be the guide as a course and a community and invite everybody to come hang out, experiment with voice AI in general. If you're building commercial voice AI stuff, show everybody what you're doing, learn from lots of experts like Weights and Biases folks about all the best tools that people are using for voice AI now. I wanted to model it after the amazing LLM course that Amal Hussein and Dan Becker did last year that turned into this like great community. So it's on Maven. I know the Weights and Biases folks are going to participate. A bunch of other people building voice models and voice tools are going to participate as company sponsors. So check it out. It's on the Maven homepage.
Amazing. Quinn, thank you so much for coming up. I think the work for open source voice stuff that you guys are doing, whether it's PipeCat, whether it's Smart Turn, whether it's the education part, is really amazing. I really appreciate you being here as a voice expert as well, telling us like about the latest and greatest. With that, I think, folks, we've done our chapter of open source, and I think we will move on. Quinn, thank you so much for joining. I will just shout out that we have a new friend here joining us on the stage. We're now a lot of people. Hey, Dex, welcome. Dex from Human Layer, Dexter Hothi.
What's up, folks? How y'all doing?
Great, coming through loud and clear. I think we will now move to a conversation with Dex about the 12 parts of agents, because I think those are interconnected, because we just talked about voice stuff for Quinn and smart detection, and I think a lot of people are using voice to interact with agents, and so I think that now it's a little bit of a time for us to talk about agents, and then we're going to do open big companies stuff, which will include a GPT image generation. Dex, it's been a while since you've been on the show, I believe a few months. Maybe do a quick reminder for folks of who you are and what you do in life, and then we'll talk about some of the aspects of building robust agents that you've outlined.
Yeah, absolutely. Super dope to be here. We've been hard at work. So I'm the founder of a company called Human Layer. We build SDKs that help folks build AI agents that feel more like digital humans. So taking them out of these ChatGPT style interfaces and deploying them into Slack or email or wherever the potential users of those agents already are. And what that led us down was a long path of trying to figure out what makes a good agent, and of all the agents that are actually in production and make it into customer hands, what is actually working in production.
Yep. And I guess tell us what is actually working for that. I think, look, I wanted to invite you as well because, and maybe we don't want to touch this, maybe we want to sidestep, but there is some drama in the agent world and how these frameworks are happening together. OpenAI released something, and then there's a response from Langsmith and Langchain, and then there's responses to the response. There's a lot of stuff happening in the agent world. There's a lot of frameworks, obviously, for agents between OpenAI is releasing theirs. Google has Google Agent SDK. There's a lot, and I'm assuming there's not a lot of like standardization around like how agents should happen. The standardization that we do know that's happening is great around like the tool calling, for example, with MCP. There's now new stuff that we chatted last week. Todd Segel from Google about A2A protocols, so how agents will like talk to each other. Would love, by the way, to hear your thoughts about A2A while you're here as well. But there's not a lot of standardization about the actual kind of frameworks. There's tons of frameworks, and then OpenAI did like a table, and now Harrison came out with his own table, like which of the frameworks does what, imperative stuff, human in the loop, human on the loop. Dude, I didn't even know whether human on the loop is a thing. Would love for you to explain to me what human on the loop is, but also would love to just get to hear from you a few of the pillars of after like many people tried them, many people that you worked with build agents. What are the important things? What are like some of the interesting stuff?
Yeah, and I will preface this. It's very easy to read 12-factor agents and to read it as a like all the frameworks are bad and you should never use them. That is absolutely not what I'm here to say. And if anything, it's really more, hey, folks who are building frameworks, this is what people need from frameworks, and this is why they can't use today's frameworks because you don't have this. And so a lot of people, I talked to a lot of founders doing impressive stuff with agents, and almost every single one of them said, I just write the thing from scratch. And so this was my goal of trying to figure out what are the things that actually make, because they are still doing things that feel agent-ish, but the big takeaway was like, and I think we've all seen this hacking ourselves, is like, when you take this, here's your prompt and here's your bag of tools and go figure it out, the reliability on that for anything more than 5 to 10 steps starts to drop off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And this is just compounding XP. Even if you're 92% accurate, if you do roll the dice on that 10 times in a row, now you're down to what, like 40%. I don't know how the math plays out, but the point is like the longer these things are working and spinning, the less high quality that, the more it just becomes completely unreliable and like definitely can't go into customer facing software.
This is model related, by the way, versus how much of this is just like the nature of LLMs getting lost in the loop.
I think the idea is like a lot of people watch this, and we even go into this in like chapter 10, which is like what happens as the models get smarter. Because there's a lot of different pieces of advice. Yeah, if you go to small focused agents and there's a GIF down there, if you scroll down, there's a GIF. It's as the models get smarter, basically what will happen is you'll take these big deterministic workflows. And what works today is putting these really small micro agents in to handle small parts of those workflows. As the models get smarter, you may be able to grow them as your prompts get better, as you get way better at tool prompting. And eventually, maybe you have this large agent that can handle a 100-step or even 1,000-step workflow. But we're not there today. And I think it was the Notebook LM folks said this on the Google podcast, which is like, the only way to, on the Swix podcast on latent space was like, the only way to create really magical and like impressive experiences in AI is to find something that is right at the edge of the model's capability and get it right consistently. And so whether the models keep getting smarter, there will always be a core set of techniques that let you, if you need to open the box and go under the hood and get as much performance as possible, this is a guide to some of the principles that will help you do that.
I hear that. I have a few more questions, Dex, but I want you to run through the 12 factors. Maybe we have them on screen, but like for folks who are listening, did you outline them by level of importance? Did you do just, this is when you build this progressively, you will add these layers? Like how are these like 12 factors created, let's say?
Totally. I think the order's somewhat random. I think the first couple are like the easiest to grok on their own. Some of the later ones build on top of previous ones. So I can quickly run through. So you have factor 1 is like natural language to tool calls. This is the magic of LLMs. And if you really embrace the fact that an LLM calling a tool is just turning natural language into JSON, but then we can do something structured and deterministic with, whether it's like hey, send an email to my assistant and ask them to do this. That turns into a call to a email API like resend or something with text in it and things like that.
Yep.
Or if it's, so that's number one. Number two is on your prompts. I think any framework that's going to hide your prompt and not give you access to the core tokens and templating is going to there's a lot of frameworks out there that you put in a couple sentences and they turn it into a banger prompt. Like you would have to go to prompt school for months to get this. People are doing like this weird thing where there are no assistant tokens. It's all user messages and you're asking the model to auto-complete the user message instead. And it's all these crazy things you used to be able to do. And that's great. But at the end of the day, if you want maximum performance, you're going to want to own every single token that goes into that LLM because they are totally safe. That's literally the only thing that affects the quality of the output is the quality of your inputs.
Yep.
And that's rolls right into owning your context window too, right? You can use this like user assistant tool, these role-based JSON messages. But if you actually look at that, like if you look at the tokens, if you click into this, there's a visualization there. If you scroll to the bottom of like just JSON versus, I know a lot of people are using like XML style stuff for their prompts. Scroll down a little bit more. We have this kind of for folks on the stream who are listening. There's a picture here of basically like a comparison between the same prompt context window in JSON is 87 tokens. And if you do it in XML, it's 57 tokens. And I don't know which one of these is better, but the point is if you are not exploring every single possible option, you are not going to find what's optimal. And so you shouldn't outsource or lock yourself into one way of thinking about how do you tell a model or an agent, here's what's happened so far, what's the next step?
I want to touch on this like super quick because context windows, as we here on ThursdAI, I've been doing this for a few years. Wolfram, we talked about excitement about 4K to 8K multiple times, and now OpenAI GPT 4.1 is 1 million tokens in the context window, which is just like mind blowing. And I think this leads me to the next point. The industry moves so fast with just like 3 exponential curves around everything. Hardware moves fast, like the models, the algorithmic, they get released, like even open source moves incredibly fast. I guess when you outline something like this for folks, how hard it is to keep up with the latest trends and expecting that like some of these things, because the thing that even with the smaller models that you outlined, let's have smaller agents do specific things, but then as time progresses, like maybe the model will be able to do like more and more. Somebody in the comments, Sean, called out the AI digest graph. Did you see that one with the doubling? I should bring it up while I talk. With doubling the time that like the models can execute tasks, it just like plotting out what they thought the curve would look like, and then like adding the GPT 4.1 and just seeing the absolute like banger of an exponential growth. So I guess with that said, with the speed that we're moving, with the fact that there's every framework that you tried, there's like a new one tomorrow. How are you looking at outlining suggestions for folks where these suggestions may get a little bit different when context windows like a 1 million token unexpectedly?
I can say like more generally, the goal here is less about like specific model techniques. The goal is more like, how can you set yourself up such that if a new model technique comes out, a new prompting technique, a new thing like MCP comes out, that you can quickly integrate it and you can push it to the limits of its performance. But for example, for the context window one, like context windows keep getting bigger, but I think everyone says you can put 2 million tokens into Gemini, but you'll get better results if you only put like a couple 100,000.
Yeah.
Like for no matter how good the model is and how many tokens it can handle, again, maybe in the next year, we'll get a model that can have really good attention across the entire context window. But that's cool. We should bet on that and we should be ready for that. And then our programs get simpler. But until that happens, you want to know how to get good performance in a world where small focused context windows are way better.
There's also the cost thing. Even though intelligence trends near to zero, people still pay for tokens. And as Mazi before said here, before he joined Dex, we had Mazi Arfanahi, who joined the open source OpenAI kind of discussion. And he told us that the folks there did not want reasoning in thinking models in open source necessarily, specifically because they would like to turn this off, specifically potentially because like it takes more time and tokens cost as well. So yeah, there's other considerations than just like performance on the context. So I agree with you. I just wanted to highlight this super quick. Shout out to Sean to reminded me. I wanted to show. This is the graph that we've talked about. Length of tasks AI can do is increasing, and this is from AI Digest, and the data source is Netter from 2025. And so you can see the plots that they had before, where they plotted out GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT-3.5 in 2022, GPT-4 in 2023, and they plotted out. And then OpenAI came out with the reasoning models, and the reasoning models obviously correct themselves on the fly and think about this. And then you can see the plot like absolutely just go absolutely bonkers and exponential here with 4 mini and O3, with they're specifying that like the length of tasks that these models can do are now measured in more than minutes and now like in hours. And then they kind of speculate going forward that if you extrapolate this, then they will go like for days as well. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, is task in this case like a single prompt turn, or is this like a multi-turn kind of agentic thing?
Very good question that I off the hand don't know the answer to.
Because if the tasks are taking longer, and it's because when I use 4.0 mini, it thinks really fast, and because you can get 4.0 mini to think and do chain of thought and all of this. You use 4.0 mini and it thinks for a bit, and then you switch to O3. Yeah, it is going to take 3 to 5 times as long to do the same amount of work. But so I'm guessing that this is like tasks in terms of like single turn prompt, and it's, hey, just go think about this thing for a really long time and then give me a good answer. But I'm curious which one
we'll send this over as show notes as well, because I do want to move on a little bit. But like they discovered this trend that was discovered by researchers at Meta. They took the most capable, I'm reading off the page as we speak, I don't know this offhand. They look at the most capable agents from 2019 to 2025 and tested them for about 200 tasks, mostly coding with some on general reasoning, compared the agent success rate to the length of each task. And then I love this like plot going forward. Dex, I want to, though, we'll add this to show notes. I want to get back to 12 factors. I guess we talked about the future when models going to improve. I did mention reasoning, and I felt like a response from you. Would love to hear your kind of take on kind of the reasoning versus non-reasoning, especially for agents stuff. Because if you think about this just holistically, some of the frameworking is built in order to make consistent thinking properly execute, and some of the frameworking is adding memory as well and like doing execution. Reasoning after test time compute takes over some of that to an extent. If you think like holistically, is okay, these models then now can correct themselves. So previously, if we had to build this into an agent, now the self-correctness comes almost built in. Would love to hear your thoughts about whether reasoning models are better for agents or not, whether like a different approach is needed. What do you see from like this whole thing?
Yeah, I have not had the chance to put this kind of thing through its paces. I know there's all these hacks you can do with injecting a butt weight token and messing with the samplings and things like this to get the reasoning stuff to be more performant. I've used a couple tools that are using O3 and O4 mini in concert to do like coding agent style stuff and things like this. The only thing I found is when you dropped in like O1 or O3 mini for an agent is that all of the tool call outputs that had text fields in them become much longer and more verbose, which is what we know from these models. Even if you can get them to call tools or output JSON reliably, things that go into that JSON are going to be more reasoning model-y. So I haven't explored them too much. I'm still using like mostly the older Claude models for our agents.
All right. I think that's pretty much it on our on the conversation. Anything that I missed, like we obviously sent the 12-factor agents and it absolutely blew up. Anything that I missed that I didn't ask you yet that you wanted to convey here?
No, there's a bunch more stuff on there. We did a webinar on Tuesday where we did a 90-minute deep dive with a bunch of live coding. I can send you a link for that to send out as well. Where if people want to see how to build one of these 12-factor agents from scratch. We didn't get through the whole thing in 90 minutes, but there's a deep dive on the repo there too. But that's very cool. I would love people to check it out. And yeah, more to come.
100%. Dex, thank you so much for coming up. One last thing that I will ask you while I've got you here, like we did talk about the future as well, and we did briefly mention the drama a little bit in the agent world and like frameworks world. Yes. One last thing that I did want to like have your opinion on as well is that last week we chatted with Todd Segal, the guy who works on the A2A protocol at Google. Obviously, MCP we've been covering like a bunch. Would love to hear your thoughts about A2A specifically, how you as an agent builder and as somebody who provides a specific services for agents to like humans interact with them, how do you see the standardization attempt from Google? Would love to hear like raw and filtered thoughts about this protocol and the standardization effort from big companies.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, I think we're in a protocol war. I think if you win with a protocol, then you have control over how the market works and how it moves. I think Anthropic killed it with MCP. People have tons of complaints about MCP and all the problems with it. And it's probably still going to win because it picked up really fast. And as we've seen this in other tech, this is like Helm versus Customize all over again for my Kubernetes people. But I haven't gone super deep on A2A is the answer. My first instinct was like, why do we need a new protocol? Like, why can't an agent delegation just be a tool call by MCP or literally anything else? Because most of these agents are going to end up being APIs in one way or another. What's wrong with REST? Which is the same thing I said when MCP comes out. And again, walking that one back a little bit. The other thing I'm really interested in is actually like what I will probably call like H2A, like human to agent. I haven't written this down anywhere yet, but the idea of there is room for a protocol where I'm using any kind of client software, whether it's Slack or a task manager or whatever it is, and like how do we ferry information back and forth from a human to an agent? And I'm wondering if agent to agent is going to be like that as well. There's all this weird like interruption and turn detection stuff when there are humans involved, and I don't know if agents are going to need that stuff. So it's my rambling thoughts as requested.
Hear you. One thing that did resonate with what you said is that specific agents dedicated to one specific like task, specific thing that you can test through. That's the bread and butter of what A2A is built on. That your generous agent that will send you will spawn out these like tasks and find the agents that are specific for this, and then there will be like in the registry. So maybe we are going towards a generalist like model that can do everything and like all of the parts. But maybe if we're not, we're going towards like a system, and in that system via this protocol, your agent would be able to just grab other things. Dex, thank you so much for coming. It's great to have agent experts here on stage. Would love to have you back with some more news about some recap of the agent industry. Absolutely, because this is where the world is going. Quinn before said it's going to be the year of voice. Everybody wants to talk about the year of agents in 2025. This is the highlight as well. Folks, Dex from Human Layer, you guys should definitely check out the 12 factors. We'll add this to the show notes as well. Thank you, Dex. We'll move on to the big companies and APIs because there's stuff to talk about there.
Super dope. Great hanging out, guys.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, the next on our agenda is the fact there was not a lot of big news from the companies. And I think the main one that we need to talk about is the image generation in API. Let's take this one. Let's just open this up. Again, I'm liking a transition for big companies, but no new model releases from big companies, no new model updates. As far as I saw, there is a little bit of a price war happening where the tiers have opened up. We've seen this, the GPT-4o and O3, all of this stuff. OpenAI basically gave like people on the, not on the pro tier, on the pro tier is supposedly unlimited. On the plus tier, OpenAI started giving, I think, 2x the O3 access, 2x like some of this stuff.
Celebrated that. Sama posted, thank ChatGPT. So you have more messages you can send, so you can say thanks in a message. But yeah, I responded to his post and said,
thanks, GPT. That was
really great because I was already at my limit for O3, and I was happy to see it reset midweek.
But I think that absolutely the main news from OpenAI this week that like many people have been waiting for is the fact that we now have a name for this image generation. They call this GPT Image 1. Also, I think Sam referred to it as Image Gen, because it was really annoying so far to say the new image generation capabilities within ChatGPT. I used to sometimes say Sora image as well. And so these capabilities have now been released in API. And not only they have been released, there's a few things that you can do that you cannot do in ChatGPT. So I don't know, folks, you already played with this, but I will shout out that in order to play with this, your organization in OpenAI has to be verified. And I went through this verification flow, and this felt like TSA pre or whatever. Like I had to scan my biometric, I have to approve with Persona. So I know that like many folks will not want to do this. I think I get why they're doing this. These models are super realistic. They can generate like realistic stuff. They want to maybe fingerprint who did what. Like it makes sense. When it's on ChatGPT, it's in their control. When it's an API, people can build all kinds of tools. So I think it makes sense. But basically now, after you verify yourself, if you go to the console of ChatGPT, you go to images, you can just now generate images with the image gen, GPT Image 1. And I think the cool thing, first of all, they have like a bunch of pre-ready prompts. So if you don't know what you're doing, they have prompts like speaker ad, for example, which they even send like a specific speaker, and they say, generate an ad for a home Bluetooth speaker, add this product and minimalist interior inspired by Japanese aesthetic. Let's send one, let's see. But also they have a bunch of other stuff to train you and give you some examples of what prompting for this model is. But also you can control a few things. You control quality. And this is a very interesting one that unlike, I would love to hear your thoughts. Unlike the other models,
I haven't seen that. This is really nice, the playground. Seriously.
Unlike other models like Flux, for example, where the quality is basically based on which Flux you use, right? There's a Flux there, Flux Pro, etc. You basically choose the model and okay, they will output the same image, etc. This is a reasoning model. This is GPT that does the generation. They just hide it behind this like image thing. So basically it's like how long to think. And so you can literally see in their API, here's our ad, by the way, that we generated with the speaker. It looks pretty cool in a very minimalistic design with AGI. It's pretty cool. It did all of it followed all the fronts.
ThursdAI is not there.
Listen,
You should put ThursdAI.fm on it.
change this to Thursday.
And make the speaker a little bit more on him.
Different qualities. Let's see the same thing in different qualities just to see the difference.
Just max it out. 1024.
Yeah, so you can control the quality, and the quality controls how long it thinks. I think this is also very interesting because if you're building any type of UI with this, and OpenAI launched it, and then they already have 10 partners built in, like Playground, and Fal already has this, like a bunch of other folks already have this. The controllable length like determines how much you pay for this, so you can't know in advance. It's very interesting, but also how long you wait for an image generation. That's also very interesting. The other interesting thing that will go very well for many folks who are generating images is the fact that you can generate up to 10 at once, and that's super cool. And the last thing maybe I'll say on this while our image generates is they have 3 APIs. They have generations, they have edits, and they have variations. Variations not existing yet for only, but I'm assuming at some point this will come as well. Generation, generate images from scratch, edits, modify images like a new prompt, either partially or entirely, and they support masking, which is great because as we talked about the detect anything thing, you can mask out whatever stuff. You just click and then send this mask as well. All right, so let's take a look at super quick at what we have here, and then we can move on as well. Okay, so this is the regular speaker. The image of the speaker was uploaded and it followed all the prompts, and then Nistan prompted it to be more unhinged. So here's our unhinged speaker. I love this. It's pretty cool. I literally what I said is change this image to ThursdAI.news, please, and make the speaker a bit more unhinged. And the text is perfect. So I think the text part is very important. Like the text is really good at this. One thing that's not good, I wanted to call out and maybe ask folks from OpenAI to fix this, is faces. This kind of looks like me, and this took like multiple iterations. When I upload anything with a face, I don't know, it feels like intentional maybe, or not intentional.
Purpose, I think they've actually done that on purpose.
Everything else in the image. So you guys remember, obviously, the giblification era of 2 weeks ago, whenever that was released. Was that 2 weeks? Time flies so
Ancient.
fast. It feels ancient. Many people are still giblifying. That makes you into a Ghibli character, and kind of all your facial features get disappeared anyway. So like the main ones remain, like the beard, the hair, the eyes maybe. But if you ask for more of a realistic thing like this, you can see that, and this is like the best one out of the ones that I've tried. You can see that it's me, but not entirely. And I know for a fact that they can make me perfectly me. Like I know for a fact. And it does feel a little bit on purpose.
No, that's not good. Yeah, that's not a good outfit at all.
This is like one of 15 that I've tried. The rest of them were just completely not related to me at all. And I had to say, hey, replace this with me. And this is like the closest one, and this could be somebody else. There's like some aspects of Alex here, but not like all of them. So it's very interesting that like images, especially realistic face images, do not yet go through, specifically because, well, we verified for this API. OpenAI knows who am I. Like they know all of this. And also in the announcement of this image gen or GPT image 1, they said that they're removing some of the face generation kind of concerns that they had before. Because in DALL-E, for example, that would refuse to generate anyone. And this would generate some people, but I don't know, the faces don't look exactly the same.
Maybe just generate a Ghibli and then do a reverse Ghibli.
Reverse Ghibli with this face. I'm sure that people will come up
stuff.
Yep, I'm sure that people will come up with some prompts or something. I think honestly a pipeline. I've tweeted about this to folks, and then folks said that this is one of the biggest issues with ChatGPT. And what folks do is they add another model that kind of aligns this to your face better with some other models. And I think a pipeline of this will actually work. I wanted to use this as a thumbnail creator, and I think I'll still post this as a thumbnail. It just does not look good. Any other things that I missed there for the image generation? I think it's very exciting. I think we're about to see multiple products go crazy. We can talk
I've
about
seen
this.
that it is already being integrated by Adobe, Figma, Wix, Airtable, Gamma, HeyGen, Opus Clip, and so on. So a lot where they are using avatars or having image modification inside. They can now use the API, and we have seen how good it works. So we would see it everywhere.
I already started using it. It is great if you have customer lists or customer cards and stuff, and you just wanted to guess an avatar for each. You can just Ghibli every customer, and then so you don't need to find their actual picture or ask for permission and stuff. You can just guess, and then you can just keep track of stuff. Yeah, this will be very useful business feature.
100%. We've been waiting for this, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be super cool. They have a cookbook. One last thing, maybe it supports transparency. So if you are generating like logos or whatever, it supports transparency. It's pretty cool. I think this is the main news in Open Labs. We can talk about Grok super quick. I do want to mention the Grok API is now available. We've been waiting for this. They're trying to go for pricing. We should definitely mention this as well. Grok 3 Mini is going at 30 cents per 1 million tokens and then 50 cents for out. This seems very interesting. Like this attempt seems very interesting. Everything else, the difference between output tokens and input tokens are higher. This is like 30%, 30 cents per 1 million input tokens and 50 cents per 1 million output tokens. Grok 3 Mini gets 93% on AIME, and they're comparing themselves to Gemini 2.5 Flash Thinking and O4 Mini High and DeepSeek R1, so like the smaller models. 93% on AIME is like impressive. I know that many people who try Grok are keeping using Grok. Like I just wanted to ask you guys, like I use Grok for Twitter stuff. I go on Grok and like, hey, summary. I do sometimes use Grok for deep research and deeper research, a feature that they launched. But I gotta wonder that now it's in the API. If any folks are trying this on like Windsurf, is it good for coding? Live Code Bench, for example. Let's take a look at Live Code Bench here. So Live Code Bench, like, measuring the ability of code generation of models. They say the Grok 3 Mini has better Live Code Bench than Gemini 2.5 Thinking, and gets O4 Mini High is like the best one here, but it's more expensive significantly. So they're showing off some very impressive scores here, including 11 labs of humanities last exam, 11%. And this is for the Grok 3 Mini thing. Folks, have you tried Grok at all via API in the tools? Anybody tried this? Anybody in the comments as well? Please let us know. Because I keep seeing people say that the models are good, but I haven't yet gotten to a point where I keep using them.
I've tried to Grok API. It just wouldn't give you the sources. So that's what I found. I wanted the RAG sources from it because that's super, but they don't provide that. And I think that's like the most valuable thing about Grok.
Wait, sorry, I'm confused. They don't provide sources. Listen, they don't provide which sources of the...
Like when you prompt for something, usually Grok does give you sources either from Twitter or from news. That's not on the API. I have checked.
Oh yeah, so API only gives you access to basically
just the model,
the kind of the X connection and the searches, like whatever. That's not in the API. They said that maybe this will come, but we haven't seen this yet as well. Jan, what's your take?
I just want to say it's a good model for coding. Seriously. We use it multiple times. When stuff doesn't work in code, I try to give it to every single one of them. And open 4 or 5 tabs, just try it with everyone. And sometimes it's Grok. It's a really good model for code. So if you didn't try it yet, do try it out. And also, I really like the thinking tokens. Like, it's really, like, the thinking tokens are available in Grok. They really do. If I play DeepSeek, it feels like DeepSeek, where you like to read what it thinks about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that, yeah, so I agree about the reasoning tokens as well. They had this confusion when they released through Grok, whether or not they're going to hide the thinking tokens. And then I think like Elon was confused. They actually showed the actual reasoning full. Grok 3 and Grok 3 Fast. So they have like fast versions of them. The fast versions cost more, very interestingly. Like they're fast, but not, I guess they're prioritizing GPUs. The pricing structure here is very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. Check out like this difference. On Grok 3 Mini Beta, the input 1 million tokens is 30 cents, output is 50 cents. So barely a difference between input and output. If you go up to Grok Mini Fast Beta, the input is 60 cents, so double of the regular one, but the output is $4. So almost 8 times more. What kind of pricing games are they playing here with? It's very interesting. And on the Grok 3 Fast Beta, not the mini one, the input is $5 and the output is $25 for 1 million tokens. for fast tokens. That's very interesting. I guess when folks are choosing which API to use, they're playing the game of fast, cheap, and smart, right? Like you're playing, this is the game, this is the triangle, you're playing fast, cheap, and smart, because then you choose between the two models, then the fast one. I guess that this is their attempt to disrupt the game and have some folks prefer something versus the other. I think that's it on the Grok API. The last thing that we should mention about Grok is that the app that many people use that has unhinged conversations, I think we've played a few of those unhinged conversations here. The app now has a live video view in addition to multilinguality as well. So it speaks multiple other languages. Wolf, I don't know if they speak German, but I saw Portuguese and Spanish, etc.
Not on the Android app, right? Apple, is it?
On the Apple, yeah. They're releasing it on Grok. They have a tier that's called something Super Grok or something on Android, but like on iOS they release like multiple things. And yeah, on iOS app you now have the ability to show Grok what you're looking at, or have it look at you and roast you, which is, I will say, very funny if you're up for this. If you use the unhinged modes and you like point your camera to it and hey, here's me, roast me, it will absolutely do that. That's really fun. I think that's
get that voice, like the events voice forms have video, like is that like live video?
Yeah, real live stream video that works.
I'm gonna play with it.
It's
interesting.
Folks, we have two guests here. We have the space for like deep dive into agents, into voice agents as well. There's a few things that I really want to cover super quick before we get to all three responses. So in this week's Buzz, I don't have a full category. I just want to tell you that we are coming to San Francisco in May 17th and 18th to do a hackathon. If you're coming for Google I/O, by the way, this is like the weekend before. So if you're coming to Google I/O, welcome to come hack with us in San Francisco. Again, May 17th and 18th. We call this Weave Hacks, and we'll announce the sponsor soon, and the prize is going to be super dope. But if you're flying into Google I/O as well, if you're listening to the show, would love to see you. Come say hi. Give me a high five. As always, the hackathons inside the Weights and Biases office in San Francisco are super cool. And then our conference called fullyconnected.com, Weights and Biases conference for everybody who uses Weights and Biases models, and the whole company is going to be there. Could be our last one, given the recent news about acquisition that is dedicated to Weights and Biases. We'll see. Maybe not, but if hype is what brings you there, then maybe our last one. Two-day conference in June 18th. I'll send the link out in this week's Buzz. I really want to show this one. ThursdAI, out of nowhere, released a 24 billion diffusion model, autoregressive diffusion model that can generate long streaming ready videos with text control. We really have to watch a video of this because like it came out of nowhere.
Great name for a company, by the way. I have to say that's some top tier naming there.
Yeah, the naming is great. But the video that we're playing right now of this Magi model has this consistent character throughout all these image generations. And I think you guys, those who played with video models, the consistency is like one of the hardest things that you always try to do. You like generate multiple images, try to get consistency. I don't believe they released this model. Folks in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong, but like they mentioned 24B, so I'm assuming that it's about to get released. They did release a technical review, and we keep showing video models. Some of them are cherry picked, some of the images, and we keep getting blown away. This one is absolutely crushing it. I wish that would be able.
I think they solved it. This was the main thing why they couldn't make movies, because you couldn't get a consistent face, and people would notice that. People are not going to care so much about the visual effects as much, getting all stuff, but they will definitely notice the face. And they might have just solved the biggest problem towards AI movies with this.
Wolfram, you want to add about FramePack or just a second? I think we mentioned FramePack maybe, but not. So I just want to finish up with ThursdAI. Infinite extension. This is, I think, the highlight of their kind of whole shtick. Infinite extensions with like consistent storytelling. So you can actually, I think they're doing like last frame, first frame, some stuff. Let me see if I can show you the actual UI. I think I have it logged in. Give me a second. Yeah, I'll just log in super quick. The UI is like this type, and then you generate something. I don't have assets. Yeah, it's going to take us a minute to generate. But basically, the UI is like the extension UI that we saw. Let me show you maybe in the video super quick about the UI. The UI is like allowing you to extend to scenes, and you can build like an actual like long video because of it. And I think that like super cool. The technical report that they released is very interesting for folks as well. They like implemented a bunch of very interesting things that many people are looking at, like getting very excited. I'm not going to go through all of the Maggie attention forward and backward timelines, but basically they scroll through timelines as well to give this model attention about this is how I'm assuming they get consistency. And yeah, I'm waiting for this model to drop because they did mention 24B. They did release the technical report. Really hoping this model will drop at some point. Right now there's GitHub, but I don't believe that the model is on Hugging Face.
There's SAM AI
yeah.
and Hugging Face.
Yeah.
Holy crap. 3
Maggie
days
is here.
ago.
We'll release the model weights and inference code. Let's go.
On this. Yeah, no, there's like
0
300
downloads.
likes.
Uh,
Whoa. Okay, download this right now.
yeah, back it up. Apache 2 licensed model weights are out.
It looks like it was like 10, 20 gigs, so it's probably what, like a 10B or so?
Yeah. No, they said 24B. 24B is what they said in the release. They have a design algorithm. Super cool. I just wanted to highlight this as well. Wolfram, you mentioned this one, which is also cool. A frame pack from, I think it's a research demo. Is that the one with the long...
Yeah, that goes up to 120 seconds, and it can run on NVIDIA GPU with just 6 gigabyte of VRAM. It's already available for local download and use, and yeah, you can make longer videos with it. So it's been a great week for video AI again.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep saying that this year is more of a video AI year than anything else. The last thing that I had...
It's Jan. This year is the moment.
This year is the year of AI. I think, folks, we're at the end here. 3D updated to 2.5 and a significant improvement on the 3D part. I'll add this to the show notes. We don't have time to show this. With this, I will just say a huge thank you as we're like coming up on the 2 hours here, that even in a slow week, we have a full show. But a huge thank you for Dex Horthy and Quindla Kramer for joining the show today, talking about multiple things that they released. As I said, one of the coolest things we get to do here is to talk with researchers and authors of the things that they blew up. Shout out to Toby, I believe, from Dia, the guy who released with his friend, like one of the mind-blowing most things in AI that we've seen, like at least this week. Dia from Nari Labs as well, the Korean folks. Huge thank you for our hosts here, LDJ Yam, Wolfram, and Nistan. My name is Alex with Weights and Biases, obviously. And the most important thing for everybody who tunes in and listens and participates in the show and sends links and reshares and subscribes. If you missed any part of the show, is available as a podcast everywhere where you get your podcasts, but also as a newsletter with all the links on ThursdAI.news. That's ThursdAI, just a simple URL. Just follow any of us on X and you see the link as well. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next week. I'm assuming next week is going to be big with some major releases as always. We'll see you here next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.